Hey everybody, before I get started, I just want to mention a couple of ways that you can engage with me on a more personal level. I have a few avenues set up and I keep focusing on one, and I figured why don't I make a short little video talking about all of them real quick before we get into these episodes. So first thing, Patreon. There's a link in the episode description and every episode description to the Patreon, as well as a video on the feed called Major Announcement that has all the details of what each tier offers and how much they cost. I implore you to check that out. I offer a lot of cool shit for my patrons. Second thing, the Discord channel. There's also a Discord link in the episode description and in every episode description. I have multiple channels set up there for each show that I'm covering, and it's a great way to just engage with me. I have a channel set up for MMA talk as well. I'm a big MMA fan, so if you're an MMA fan, you can check that out as well. There's a link to the Discord in the episode description. And then lastly, the Facebook and Twitter. Social media. Follow me on there. I post news on there. When I say news, I mean like, hey, I'm stopping covering this show. Hey, I'm starting covering this show. Let me know what you think about this. I do live watches of things on Facebook where like I'll check in and say I'm watching so-and-so show, and then I'll like live comment while I'm watching it, and that'll be cool if maybe you watch that show too and you want to watch along with me, or you're watching it later and you will see my thoughts, which are usually pretty entertaining because I'm usually pretty high when I'm writing them. So check out all those links in each episode description, and let's talk about this episode. Peace.
One mic, one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. One mic. One mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about Season 1, Episode 4 of HBO's The Last of Us, entitled Please Hold to My Hand. Be careful about this episode title. It's not Please Hold My Hand, it is Hold to My Hand. And that's important. Well, I'll explain the episode title in a moment, but before I do that, I want to put out there real quick, Episode 5 is airing, it's streaming Friday at 9 p.m. instead of Sunday. I believe the episode is still going to air on Sunday, but I don't think they wanted to compete with the Super Bowl, so they're giving people the opportunity to watch it on Friday, and then if you're somebody who can't make it on Friday or Saturday, you could still watch it on Sunday if you're available and you're not watching the football game. But understandably, HBO didn't want to go up against the ratings juggernaut that is the Super Bowl, so it is streaming Friday at 8. My plan for this is to get my video out on Saturday. So I don't know when on Saturday, but on Saturday is not just the plan, that is what will happen. It will be out on Saturday. So that's the plan for episode 5. As far as the episode title goes, Please Hold to My Hand. The episode title is a line from the Hank Williams song that Joel and Ellie listen to in their truck during this montage of desolation that we see Ellie and Joel drive through en route to Kansas City. The song just like sonically sounds depressing when you hear it in the especially when you hear it as a backdrop to this kind of scenery. It's super depressing. But I listened to it on Spotify and I read the lyrics along with it, which is ironically how I found out that the episode title is a line within the song, because I'm sitting here like, what does this episode title mean? And I'm like, I was like, is it the name of the song? And then I'm like, no, it's not the name of the song. So that's how we ended up here. But I'm reading the lyrics, and it's just as depressing of a song when you actually read the lyrics as it is hearing it playing over this desolation that we see visually while we're watching this episode. So the song's called Alone and Forsaken. Like I said, it's about exactly what the title says it is. It's about being alone and forsaken because a woman has left him. It's a really depressing song. It's basically, the entire song is like 2 minutes, and all of it is examples of how shitty this guy's life is now that this woman has left him. And the please hold to my hand part is like a call out to the Lord. Like, Lord, this woman got me fucked up. Please hold on to my hand so I can manage my life. Like, that is the general vibe of the song, but it is wildly depressing sounding. But I like how this song works in the episode and how the title works with the episode. You know, Joel and Ellie are no longer alone and forsaken, though I think they both probably had to have felt that way at some point. I don't know much about Ellie's past yet, but I expect to find out plenty about it in the coming episodes, especially given that we learn a little bit of something every week. Like, for instance, this week we learned this wasn't the first time she killed somebody. But we know that Joel has to be feeling that way constantly. He lost his daughter. He lost his brother. He lost, I don't know how you would define Tess, Those of you who played the game probably know to a greater extent what Joel and Tessa's relationship was like. It might not have been a purely hey, let's get through this pandemic together and help each other out. They might have been fucking, I don't know. But whatever the case may be, she's clearly very important to Joel. So he's probably felt alone and forsaken too, because at multiple moments he loses people who are important to him in his life. But now they're alone and forsaken together. And I think that's kind of cool. Like, these two people who have dealt with their own respective traumas, and we hear we see what this pandemic, I hate calling it a pandemic, but I don't have a better word for it at the moment. Maybe somebody will put in the comments and I'll see it. But what this has done to the world, seeing the desolation and whatnot, but also what it's done to them, and how it made them feel alone and forsaken. And now they're together and they're bonding, and I think that's kind of cool. And I think this is something that we need for this show, so that when the zombies turn up and it gets crazy, we're going to be way more invested in each of them individually, but then also as them collectively as like a father-daughter pairing. So I think that's actually a good segue into talking about the episode. Because like I said, not only does it do that, but I think this episode also made Joel and Ellie a bit more three-dimensional, and it also, like I said, showed the formation of this bond. And like I said, also, now that we care about each of them individually and collectively, we'll care more when the shit pops off and things get really ugly. But also, I see what and I might be getting ahead of some criticism here. I can see how this could be interpreted as another risk for the show, because last week, they deviated from the Ellie and Joel storyline completely to tell this wonderful love story between these two men, between Bill and Frank, which was also not a huge part of the game. So if you're somebody who's in it for the game shit, you're in it for the zombies, you're in it for the excitement, and then you spend an hour and 20 minutes watching this gay couple, you might be like, oh, that's not why I'm here. And then now you come back the next week and you get another zombie-free episode. So I let me just say, I understand and relate to people who might be frustrated. Well, I don't relate, I understand. But people might be frustrated that we haven't gotten to the zombie shit yet. But like I said, or at least to a heavy degree. But like I said, I feel like now once that gets popping, we're going to be way more invested than we had been if it had started popping off after episode 2. But I feel like this episode was necessary, and it's going to make everything that follows that much better. But prior to this episode, talking about the how these characters, Ellie and Joel, have become a little bit more three-dimensional. Prior to this episode, Ellie just seemed like a petulant child to me. Like, she was always like being mouthy, always had an attitude, always getting herself into trouble. She seemed like she was going to be like that, the character that I hate, it just seems like men write women in this way. And if you're paying attention to my channel for all this time, it gets on my fucking nerves, is when they make women be nothing more than a thorn in the paw of the male protagonist. And it felt like Ellie was about to be like just this irritating damsel in distress who was either always going to get in trouble and Joel was going to have to save her, or she was always going to be doing stupid shit that was going to irritate me. And I'm like, this is why I don't like these kinds of shows. But I expect from this show and from the people behind it to do something a little bit better. And that's what we're doing. So Ellie and Joel, let me continue with Ellie. But she seemed like she was going to be, like I said, this damsel in distress character, but now we've learned a little bit more about her. She showed a lot more personality in this episode. And then I look at Joel the same way. He seemed like this gruff, I'm not going to speak much. I don't have much personality, and you're going to find out why in flashbacks. Like, that's what Joel felt like, right? But now I think we're supposed to see Joel in a different light too. Like, he's letting that wall down, which has got to be difficult for him, because this is a guy who's dealing with the loss of his daughter, and now he's watching another girl, and now he's probably trying to keep her at a distance, because he's like, I have a reputation for the people who get close to me dying. I don't want that to happen here. But he's starting to let that down, and now I feel we understand both of them better, and I see them as much more of what I think the show is going for, which is this father-daughter combination. And, an example of this, my favorite part of this episode involves this pun book that Ellie reads multiple, well, she doesn't read, but she recites some puns from this book, I think like 3 times in this episode. And the book serves to make both of them more interesting. And we get these two really great heartwarming scenes because of this book that I think wouldn't have been as heartwarming if I didn't feel the way I felt about Ellie and Joel coming in. So the fact that I came in kind of like these two, I'm fine with them, but they seem fairly one-dimensional, and it wasn't a criticism, which is why I never brought it up, because of course they're going to expand on these characters and make them more than they are, but right now they feel very one-dimensional. So because of that, when they start to show this personality and this bonding, that makes these characters now feel more relatable. Like, okay, now these feel like regular fucking people and not just, no pun intended, zombies walking around, like with no personalities and shit. Or with like very generic, bland, straightforward personalities. But when Ellie asked Joel about why a Scarecrow won an award, the question alone was funny because they already established the book prior, the pun book. So they had the scene where, you know, she said a couple to him and he was looking irritated. So they already had established that part, right? And then she starts by saying, like, I have a serious question. So then when she comes with, like, why does Scarecrow win an award? I'm like, ah. So I'm already laughing because I'm like, okay, Ellie's clearly, like, now she's got jokes. Like, she's kind of funny. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. So she asked the question, and in my mind, I'm just like, I know this is going to be funny because I'm already into, like, dad jokes, shitty puns. Like, that kind of stuff is always funny to me. So I already knew, I'm like, this is going to be a hilarious fucking answer, right? And then when Joel answers the question with he was outstanding in his field, like, I completely, like, just burst out laughing because it was 10 times funnier because Joel had been so dry this whole time. So again, like, it doesn't feel like set up to have a character be one-dimensional to start off. That's just kind of how you would start off a show. Like, it makes sense. But because of that, and then because of his dry delivery on it, it was way funnier. It's like hearing the Mandalorian crack jokes and shit. So, like, I thought that was super cool. How something that, like, on paper, I feel like you might not think it was that big of a deal, but when you watch it in the show, it made me feel differently about Ellie. It made me feel differently about Joel. It made me feel differently about their relationship. Like, and it was funny as fuck to me. Like, and it was funny as fuck, even though, like, for most people, like, the joke itself was probably just like, but it was funny because of the fact that they were smart enough to have Joel deliver the answer, and they knew that would make it funnier because it kind of flies in direct contradiction to what we've seen, the characterization we've seen of Joel up to this point. So, like, I just thought that was a brilliant move. You know, toward the end of the episode, we see them sharing a laugh about another one of the puns, and I'm not going to go into that, but for all the same reasons that I just cited, I really liked that scene. So it was really cool to see them bond after, and become less of who they've been to this point, and more of who I think we're going to see going forward, these two three-dimensional characters who have formed this bond with one another. So another thing I liked is how they're also showing Joel's aversion to bonding. You know, he has to feel a great deal of failure because of, again, the losses that I mentioned, the daughter, Tommy, Tess, all that good stuff, right? And he probably doesn't want that to happen again with Ellie. And then he goes on this rant about how Tommy wanting to help everybody was, like, delusional and pointless. And then Ellie kind of calls him on the hypocrisy of this, right? Like, this nihilistic view of, like, nothing fucking matters, why bother? But it's like, well, you're here helping me. And he tries to, like, revert back to who he was, kind of like, well, you're just cargo, and I'm just doing this as a promise to Tess. And I'm just sitting here like, no, motherfucker. Nice defense mechanism, nice try, but I just saw you show vulnerability back there with the Scarecrow joke. So I like it, but no, Mr. Outstanding in his field. I don't buy the cargo shit anymore. So I kind of like that he's trying to like, oh no, I'm still a badass, but no, outstanding in his field. Like, she's not just cargo anymore. You're bonding, but then again, we're just making these characters a lot more robust with these sorts of things, which is again why I love this episode. But I don't begrudge anyone who's irritated or frustrated or concerned about the lack of zombies we got so far. I just think a lot of what we got is super good and super necessary. And even if you're somebody who's like, I wanted some fucking zombies this week, I feel like when the zombie shit pops off, you're gonna appreciate this episode a lot more because of that. Because of what we've seen in it, you're gonna appreciate this episode. You're gonna appreciate when the zombies come. You're gonna appreciate that more as well because of episodes like this one. But we also have a B plot here. I've been going for 13 minutes. I'm just now getting to the B plot. This is actually not bad. I figured this was gonna be a long video, but I feel like I'm speed talking, so we're gonna get there quickly. But the B plot here revolves around a character that I've learned is original to the show. Her name's Kathleen. She's played by Melanie Linsky, who has been around for a long time, but I think most of you all now probably know her from Yellow Jackets. As far as I can tell, Kathleen seems to be the head of, I guess, a different resistance group than the Fireflies. So I don't know. Do we have two now? I guess maybe you game people would know, but her group seems to have overthrown Fedra in Kansas City, and she's also on the hunt for a pair of fellows. I don't know what they're. I mean, I don't know how to refer to them, but Henry and Sam. I don't know if they used to be part of their group. Whatever. I'm 100% certain we're gonna find out. But she's looking for this Henry and Sam. And we see her execute the doctor who gave birth to her. Well, I can't say gave birth to her. Like the doctor was a man. He didn't birth her, but he was the physician that delivered her. There we go. That's where we go. The physician who delivered her. She executes this guy because she believes he knows where Henry is, and she also believes that Henry had some sort of involvement. I think in getting her brother killed. Like she gave him up, or so. Henry gave up the brother or something like that, and that ended up getting the brother killed. Whatever the case may be, whatever Kathleen's dealing with as it pertains to Henry and Sam revolves around a perceived betrayal of her brother. So that's really all I've got from the Melanie Linsky side of things right now. But Joel and Ellie have a run-in with a couple of members of Kathleen's group, 3 of them to be precise, that ends up resulting in the killing of all 3, including a spectacular fucking scene. And I love this scene. It was like, it wasn't hard to watch, like in the sense of like you need to look away, but I think this is kind of scene that is the reality of a situation like this that I think a lot of other shows might be too, I don't want to say scared to tackle, but maybe a little bit apprehensive, because this is going to be something that's, I think for a lot of people, is going to be really hard to watch. And I'm interested to hear any feedback on not feedback, but like anyone's thoughts on this scene in particular. Like, what did this scene make you feel like? Because what ends up happening, they get attacked, they crash into this building, they being Joel and Ellie. They get ambushed, they're getting shot at. Joel takes out 2 of the 3 guys, and at the time we only know of the 2. But once he takes those 2 out, a third one comes from behind. It looks like Joel's about to be taken out. This guy's choking him. Ellie had been hiding. She comes out. She pulls out the gun that we saw her secretly stash in a previous episode. I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago. But she pulls out the gun that we knew she had in secret, and she shoots this guy. But what ends up happening, the guy doesn't die. She shoots him in like the back. And then he turns over, and we come to realize that he's really just a kid. He's fucking calling for his mom and shit. Like, he's totally changed, like his... and this is what I think really made this, like, I was so blown away in this scene that I didn't even understand what was happening at first. But like, when this happens with an adult, right, they're gonna be like, I'm not telling you shit, I just kill me. Like, they're gonna be badasses, right? This kid gets shot, and he's like, yo, I don't give a fuck about whoever I was with, we can team up. Like he starts begging, like please don't take this any farther. He starts calling for his mom, which I'm sure there's no way they could have expected this. And I'm interested if anyone's gonna ask them if they considered pulling this scene because of it. But with the thing with the Tyree Nichols guy in Memphis, and with the him getting beat up by the cops and him calling for his mother, like, I feel like this was gonna like, when that happened, I felt like, is this gonna be like triggering for maybe like not even necessarily Tyree Nichols' family, but just for people who this is already gonna be like watching someone who's young kind of like beg for their life and call for their mother is gonna be traumatizing, not traumatizing, but like that's gonna be a very impactful and emotional scene regardless. But with the Tyree Nichols thing going on at the same time, I'm wondering if they even did they have conversations like, do you think we should pull this scene or do you think we should change it? But really powerful scene that happens here with Ellie having to kill this guy. And like I said, well, she doesn't kill him. She shoots him. Joel ends up killing him after he sends Ellie into a different room. But we also find out because of this scene that Ellie has actually killed someone, or at least shot someone before. We don't get details on that. And she tells Joel she doesn't want to talk about it. I'm sure we'll find out. But yeah, what a great scene that was. And I'd be curious to hear if any of you were like really affected by it emotionally, if you thought it was in poor taste. Like, do you think they should have taken it down given the Tyree Nichols situation? Like, I don't know, but man, what a great scene. So Kathleen believes Henry sent the people. She believes that the people, her guys who were killed were killed by people who were sent by Henry. Yes, that works. So she wants them found and killed. But we, of course, know that Joel and Ellie killed her guys, and they were not, in fact, sent by Henry. They're just out here warring. That's a reference that very few of you are going to get. But the episode ends with who I can only assume is actually Henry and Sam apprehending Joel and Ellie. And I think this is an interesting point for the show, too. Because I find it entirely fucking implausible that Henry and Sam would find Joel and Ellie in one of any random buildings in downtown Kansas City on the 33rd floor of 45? On the 33rd floor of 45. They just so happen to... Fuck that, dog. Like, but I feel like this is a show... Like, I have way too much respect in the people behind this show to not expect an explanation. I feel like I'm going to get a plausible explanation for that. And it doesn't have to be something intricate, but I feel like they're going to explain to me how this is possible, and it's not just going to continue as if this is a plausible coincidence, or that they, I don't know, maybe Henry and Sam could have followed them. Like, and again, I just want an explanation. But they told me they were on the 33rd floor of 45 at some random building in downtown Kansas City, and you expect me to think Henry and Sam just like, yeah, we just stroll around the 33rd floor of this building and do a little recon. No, fuck that, man. So I need an explanation for that. But I want to close out with one other thing I really enjoyed about this episode, which is how this show continues to world build and to give you a better understanding of what this world might be, what a world might be like 20 years after something like this. So we have Joel talking about gas, how he says it's like water now. So I think he said before he used to get 10 to 12 hours on a tank. Now you only get 1 or something like that. And so they constantly have to siphon gas. And I don't know if that's going to come into play later. Like, they're going to run out of gas when they're driving away from somebody. It's going to be like, oh, fuck, I don't know. I suspect that will happen because I feel like this is the kind of show that's not going to waste any information. Like, they're not going to tell us that you have to constantly fill up for gas. Gas doesn't last long as it used to. Gas is like water. I feel like this isn't the kind of show that's going to tell you that and not use it. But even if they don't use it, I'm fine with that. But still, I like it. It explains the world to me. It lets me know what it's like now. And then I'm also wondering how I feel, and I'm curious how you guys feel, during this montage where they're driving around. We see a bunch of living cows. Do you guys feel any kind of way about that? Like, I don't know if I should. I don't know if I do. I just know I paused. I'm like, okay, how do I feel about cows being alive? Because I'm like, the cows could have not been infected. Because they might not have eaten the same things that the humans would eat. Would the infected go after cows? Because like, okay, so like, let's say, hypothetically, right? Let's talk about some clickers, right? So the clickers can't see, but they can hear. If you're a clicker and you're just wandering around, right, and you're in a field, you don't know what the fuck's going on, you're just a fucking zombie, and there's a cow munching on some grass, and you hear that, do you think, let me go attack? No, they're clearly not thinking, but like, do you go attack that cow, or do you just keep going? You're like, that's a cow. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like, my gut feels like cows shouldn't be alive, but then I also feel like, well, what would have killed them necessarily? And then also they're supposedly kind of like in the middle of nowhere. Joel talks about like, we don't want to be in these highly populated areas. We want to stay in these more low key areas. So for instance, because like Joe, Ellie asked him like, are we in danger of the infected? He's like, no, ain't no infected out here. We're in danger of other people. So maybe it's just the case that there's just not infected in this area where the cows were. I don't know. But I wanted to pose a question like, do y'all feel any kind of way about cows being alive? I don't know. So that's all I got. Again, I think another great episode, and I think now from this point on, I believe it's a 9-episode season, so we got 5 left. I feel like now the shit's about to really turn up, and I think those of you who might be a little bit anxious after these last 2 with no real, real exciting zombie shit, like those of you who might be a little anxious are probably going to start to get what you're looking for in these final 5. And then again, if you are a little perturbed, I'm curious, like, once you get what you're waiting for, are you going to see the value in these episodes? I hope so. But that's all I got. I will see you guys Saturday for episode 5. And until then, peace.